And you're listening to Genderqueeries on 100.5 FM CFRO, Vancouver's Cooperative Radio. And joining us now is Antonette. And hey.
Hi, Catherine.
Hey.
I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, we're happy to have you here. We've been wanting to have Antonette here for like 2.5 months, but just stupid BS happened and I wasn't able to be here, and I have to be able to get you in. So, I first saw you at a thing after Transmarch like 5 years ago. It was a Gallery Gachet, I think. It's been a while.
Okay.
But how about you introduce yourself to who are you?
Well, I'm just Antonette. You know, I'm a hybrid. You know, of mature hybrid. I'll be, believe it or not, I'll be turning 65 this summer.
Huh.
And I'm still alive because most of the girls didn't make it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's I never ever thought I'd make it this far, but things changed, people's attitudes, and it's been there were times where, my God, I never thought possible, but it's planting small seeds, and it's kind of what you did. Like I was one of the lucky ones that didn't go down, with in the early years of the
plague. Yeah.
The plague that it took so many lives at my age, around my age group, that it's a huge void.
Yeah.
And it's tough, It was tough trying to stand up and be yourself at a time when, you felt like you're alone against the world.
Yeah.
After that crash, I mean, the 70s were marvelous. Everything was just, feeding off for the movement started in the 60s, by university students, and you're making a difference, and you were changing people's attitudes. And mind you, the trans, thing is probably one of the most misunderstood areas of gender, because, I mean, people got to self-identify. You got to allow them to be who they are, but when you're a minority, there's so many people that all figure they got you. And I always said, well, no, rarely has anyone ever nailed it on the nose, you see, because they think that you're a guy trying to be a woman or something like that, and they see the masculine side because, well, you didn't get much support from the medical community. You didn't get much support from anybody.
Yeah.
And even, there was drag queens, that was different. There's all kinds of, it's education, which is just basically goes with everything.
Yeah.
So it's been a haul, but I was there, with the women's rights and the civil rights movements and things. My final year of high school, they decriminalized homosexuality in Canada.
Yeah.
Like that was, all of a sudden there could be gay bars.
Yeah.
I carried a purse to grade 12 in my high school. And my friend, he couldn't believe it. He had to go out and get one. He just thought that was just the wildest thing, and one just like that. But he was represented. Was caught up in the beginning when of the epidemic or whatever, the genocide sort of thing almost.
Yeah.
But it's in a way, when I finally gave up trying to please everybody around me, and I just couldn't I got the opportunity to be myself, because I guess I succumbed to a lot of the pressure, and I tried to please, and I tried to hide and deny who I was, because it was a curse growing up. You know, it was a secret. It was you're terrified.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrified of people finding out when you realize when you lost your mental virginity.
Yeah.
You know, and it's going, oh my God.
Yeah.
You mean I got things, and there's nobody to talk to.
Right.
There's nobody you could come out to or get support. You didn't even know.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying. I suppose my high school years were spent in one hell of a deep depression, and it was, it wasn't the best time in my life, that's for sure. But anyway, things have changed, and I stood up, and I suppose I used the fact that I was, I was making babies when all my friends were getting infected, and because I wanted love. I didn't feel I was getting love from my family.
Yeah.
And see, I was born with ovaries and testicles. I was sort of intersex. I said I'm a hybrid. I was made for couples, right? But
that's good way of putting it.
It's like, it doesn't matter what's between your legs, it's what's in your heart.
Yeah.
And it's that person you want inside, you want to connect with. And you connect with that person, you'll do whatever it takes to please them. There's always ways around every hurdle, and solutions can be found. Then you have no problems if you stay in the solutions.
Yeah.
But so many people, they can't, they're slow to accept or slow to change. And I had confidence, where when I stood up, I was standing up for my friends that weren't with us anymore. And I was out in Redneckville, small town, BC.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably the only masculine, one day all of a sudden is out and loud and proud, and
Yeah.
and everybody wants to kill you, and frame you and blame you and point fingers, and you just get, but you're standing up for it because it's principles. You grow as a person. It was sort of like a spiritual journey, a walkabout. I almost didn't make it. I got victimized quite a bit, and it gets pretty hard when you feel like you're alone against the world.
Yeah.
And my writing is very much part of my feminine side. My creative side has always been. I mean, I've always had this since I can remember. It's not something that you just decide one day you're going to do this. It's like only, as a child, you don't know you're any different, because I mean, this is the 50s. You didn't even say the word sex. I rarely see my parents being, affectionate physically.
Yeah.
And but they never took an interest in my life or my interests. It was always trying to find, something that could keep you out of their hair. Sports, music, whatever. But
yeah.
And my writing kind of evolved from that. Like in my 20s, that's when I started more androgynous. I mean, when Lou Reed came out with Take a Walk on the Wild Side, that kind of was like, my God,
Yeah.
wow, that was so popular. It's like transvestite. Of course, that back then, that's the only word you knew. Is you're transvestite. On the Sheilas, put on your Sheila. And the drag queens, and the bars, and there was and hard drag, and there was just so many guys that were all of a sudden had this bottled up, and it was unbelievable. You walk down the streets of Vancouver and you'd be carrying a bag, and there's a guy across the block up, and he'd see, oh my God, he's got a wave. It's just like solidarity.
Yeah.
And it was magical because it was, taking off, magical, I say, because, the summer of love, '67. When I lost my virginity, he was my best friend. But we don't have to go with that. But I was a little young, but I was so influenced by the whole make love, peace, and war, and the communal house, and the women fighting for ban the bra, and of course my friend's older brother, political science, and they love-ins every Friday night, and the girls just wore panties and no bras, and it was like, oh my God! But it was love the one you're with. There wasn't this whole guy, heterosexual. It was experimentation. People were all of a sudden was bringing it forward, and it's young people that were trying to push the barriers of the old guard that, rock and roll is Satan's music, my God, And when I started high school, women couldn't even wear pants.
Yeah, that's good.
Halfway through the year, they allowed them to wear, if it came with a pantsuit, or they were like plaza pants, and then that's okay, And as guys, we weren't allowed to pull our shirt tails out of our pants. So as soon as you walk out the door, that's the style. You wear your shirt tails hanging out, right?
Yeah.
And you couldn't have your hair over your collar, so everybody grew it long at the front, and be sticking in their mouth and all flicking their hair back. And it's all these rules that, you're bucking it. You're trying to find yourself at that age. And the whole sexual thing was, my God, it was a mystery for a lot of us. Thank God we've got a little more openness, and there is going to be support for the younger ones coming up behind us. It was never there for my generation. It's so nice to see that. There's more understanding when it comes to gender identity, but it's so frustrating when you hear people in positions that set themselves up as authorities. I'm a doctor, and
And they're never really a doctor.
well, I'm a pediatrician, and this is and you go, well, gee, dear, but you're talking about sexuality. We're talking about gender here.
Yeah.
You missed the point. You haven't got it, but. It's like Christy Clark talking, and you're going, Christy, don't you get it? You're talking about sexuality and tying it with gender. You don't get it, but you see, how do you change somebody's mind when they think they know and they don't?
Yeah.
And it's going, oh my God, you're just perpetuating the stigmatisms, and that's something we've got to battle. And there's right now in today's. I guess there's the new publication, Voices of the Street, that's put up by Megaphone for the downtown east side here.
We got a copy here. We've been kind of eyeballing.
And they included a poem that had been finishing up stories from the front lines, trying to bring awareness to the fentanyl crisis and all the overdoses, and to outline communities and give instructions on the naloxone kits and passing them out, and because it's sad when your children just and people and because of the stigmatism, doing it alone in the shadows, it's just like the whole thing behind drugs is just it's amazing. It's a social problem, and we've criminalized it because it benefits criminal organizations and, of course, the bureaucracy behind it. And it's one way we can throw the poor and the marginalized into jail, But what does it cost? $80,000 per
year
per inmate? That's a lot of money, I think each of us could probably live pretty handsomely on that. When you've got a government that those on disability and fixed incomes are making not half of below the poverty line.
Right.
They're like, whoa, like how do you survive? And you've got, oh well, what's wrong? You got the food bank. They're banking on, yet they have no trouble,
spending all that money and
jets here, and let's have a tea party for 500,000, and but we're going to cut the funding on the MAP van that It's a non-profit organization, but it really helps. And my God, to the poor girls that are forced to stand on a corner, and it's really nice when you're freezing your ass off and you get a hot coffee or sandwich, and you got, or your face is all bloodied and beaten up because you got jumped, and you got this band which is coming over, and they bandage you up and pick you up, and oh no, we can't fund that, 70 grand. No, because I spend that at my hairdresser, for Christ's sake. What am I going to do? I can't cut that out of my life. I know I'm exaggerating and being a little bit,
No, but I mean, it's really like
I mean, even I don't think people have any idea what goes on and what's really going on here. They like to whitewash it.
Yeah.
It was too easy. Oh, it's all the drugs. And drugs are just a reflection of other problems. And people don't get it. They want to always, as long as it doesn't happen to me, we're doing fine. And we won't look at it. But, my God, what kind of society is this become? Look at the astronomical amount of money that's spent on, the war on drugs, drug enforcement, law enforcement, policemen. And, let's face it, we might all want to believe in the police, but I know firsthand how systems don't always work when you don't have the majority behind you, or you don't have the money, or you don't. It's quite a different kettle of fish, and the discrimination I faced, I doubt very many people have ever, unless you're transgender and black and or native, or just being transgender sometimes. My God.
Yeah.
The jokes, the humiliation, the ridicule at the hands of authorities that you're supposed to trust in, You get beat up, attacked, you go to want to report it to the police, and you know what you get? You sure you wanted, I bet you if I check your purse, I'll find something, I'll throw you in jail. Oh, the first thing out of the mouth was, oh, too bad they didn't finish the job.
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe I won't, because you're transgender, you see.
Right.
Nobody, and it's hard, but I'm not making this stuff up.
No.
And I've got lots of stories, and I try to reflect it in my poetry and put humor to it, because that's one way to process it and make it palatable, so that we don't forget these things, because, we should be helping our sisters and our brothers all throughout the world. There's other countries where they're we said, well, geez, they're incarcerated, their lives are at stake. Well, it was like that here, too, I mean, I've been in at least a dozen fights to the death, and I survived because I knew how to handle myself. And I think, the higher powers up and above, were looking over me.
Yeah.
Because, there's times where I don't know how I survived, like getting hit in the head with a sledgehammer and get attacked with metal pipes and pulling out of a coma, or freezing to death because the cops drop you off, make it in pots, try to set you up to die. And and nobody will open the door for you. You're starving. And it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that, there is a lot more support now, and people are starting to get it. And we, because there's no reason why there should be this many homeless people. And so the poem that I wrote, and it's called Drug-Free Therapy. And tonight at SFU, there's a talk, and it's like, oh my gosh, if I wasn't here, I'd probably be there. But I could read this poem. It's just been published in the Voices of the Street. This is the 8th edition, I believe. I had one in the 1st edition. But I just call it Drug-Free Therapy, and it's the war on drugs. It doesn't work. It's a terrible, sad mistake when we spend billions of dollars on drug enforcement, prisons, and an overburdened judicial system with drug laws that often make criminals out of our precious children who've become saddled with the disease of addiction. Yes, the medical community has now listed addiction as a disease. They can now prove that there are actual physical changes to the brain caused by addiction. The addicted brain's neurological pathways become hardwired to the addiction. Most addicts are destined to fail, which the statistics sadly do validate. But this will help to create and refine newer, more successful ways in how we look at and treat addiction. Provide drugs free, at least decriminalize all drugs and control their quality and distribution. Spend a fraction of the billions spent on enforcement and prescribe free drugs that come with therapists. Provide support and counseling for drug addicts. Realize most have learning, psychological, physical disabilities. Drugs are often a reflection of wounds left unaddressed or unrepaired. Many are subconsciously self-medicating, not even aware they're doing so in some cases. How about investing in trained social workers, decent affordable housing, counselors with accommodation, and supported subsidized education? Let's heal and assist those who've fallen through the cracks, a byproduct of this capitalist society. The majority who profit from this system have a responsibility to help those who've fallen and not simply criminalize drugs, hence a disease called drug addiction. Drugs are a social problem and should not be criminalized but dealt with socially through social means. We as a society need to take away the huge profits that come with the high risk of the product's illegality, which plays into the hands and for the benefit of organized crime. This attracts our young men into organized criminality. Illegal drugs prey on the young and the many who are poor. Their thirst for riches, to make lots of money and play with bitches. In their dreams, material wealth is what's needed to take away their current troubles, be a success, and live happily ever after like all the rest. A total fallacy, but they don't know it yet. It's a stacked deck. They're destined to fail, certainly for jail and maybe for death. Most likely they'll end up with a life of broken hearts and regrets, living in poverty, their life a mess. Let's give a hand up to those who've been beaten down and kicked around. Addicts not having to worry about getting the money for their drugs will not fall into the vicious circle of do the drugs, get the money to buy the drugs, and do the drugs, and so on and on, all-encompassing, but no time to do anything else but service the drug, the addiction, 24/7. Soon the individuals not having to beg, thieve, or prostitute themselves to support their addiction will have time to find and develop their passion, their interest, or trade, which will help to rebuild their self-esteem. That and not always having drugs on the mind, they would do fewer drugs and hopefully become a more law-abiding, productive part of society. Drugs for free and therapy versus crime, violence, prisons, and premature death. Just to touch on a few subjects there, but there's a lot more to it, but that was sort of the gist of it, is trying to remove the stigmatism that surrounds drugs so that they can get to real help. Take it out of the shadows. Make it possible so that people do get to help.
Yeah.
And because I've seen a lot, of individuals and people ending up in the street, others who have, come to Vancouver trying to escape, a situation which is intolerable or their lives are at risk. And only to find little support. And it's sad when, the 12-year-old girl has been on the street since she's 12, or the 14-year-old girl, and their education, but all they get is kicked around. People not understand what some of them are dealing with, or what other new immigrants have dealt with, where they fled from, how, it's we got to get our heads out of the sand and stop this me, I, and thirst for money and material wealth, because, the richest people are those with the most stories, right? And, the young souls chase the dollar, and hopefully they realize their mistake before it's too late, but might have to come back a few times.
Yeah. And, Antonette, you had something that you wanted to read about the eye. Or the lack of eye.
Oh, yeah, well, it was something transgender, because, I can't, most people, when you say you're a hybrid, they think, what do you run on gasoline and electricity? You know, it's like, well, yeah. Just got to hook me up to the right terminal.
Yes.
But, no, it's just, I see myself as a bit of both. It's a combination. I'm like, you know, it's so far out there on the masculine and the feminine side that you know, the pendulum kind of bent around full circle and it came back as one. So I'm kind of like Adam before they made woman, you know, when he was a hermaphrodite.
Presumably. Yeah.
You know,
I mean, if we're
so
going up by that story.
I'm just a higher evolution of the species, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, who knew? But I mean, I do have a personal relationship with certain spiritual energies out there that, you know, came into my aid when I was, you know, alone against powers I couldn't have fathomed. Until it was almost too late, but they saved me. And it's kind of like footprints in the sand thing, where, you know, you're letting you know that there is more to life, to keep going, and, you know, there's a purpose behind it, behind the journey, and you don't know what it is all the time. You know, it's you're always sometimes too trying to make a decision before you got enough facts.
Right.
You know, and then, you jumped the gun, and if you only just were a little more patient, the clearer path would have presented itself, and you wouldn't be so confused as to which way to go. And I think that a lot of that, you know, is by not having any peers, nobody to lead the way, nobody to look to, nobody to you know, partners in crime, whatever. And not until I got to Vancouver. I mean, you know, well, anyways, I was going to read this poem because it sort of was at the beginning of the Plague, Misunderstood, which was very successful, and I was very fortunate that the Frank Theatre Company supported it, and Jimmy Tate, the director, very talented, and the other actors that on stage, and everybody to do with it. We had a marvelous time and great success in Winnipeg for FemFest. But my name's Antonette. Everybody wants to call me Antoinette, you see. Right. So I was just like, well, let me see. I kind of wrote this trying to explain a little bit just about, okay, you know, and it starts off with me trying to figure out how I ever came up to the name, you know, and it was like, okay, Antonette, but, I mean, I got little stories about that, too, but is it after 9 o'clock? No.
It's 8:50, so we have about 10 minutes.
Well, it's just, you know, I mean, Auntie, you know, I didn't want to be like Street Mom, because I was so much older than most of the people around me, because, you know, it just the way things worked out. So, and there was another gal that was known as Mom, you know, and so I figured, well, she's Mom, and well, I'll be Auntie, you know, and you know, the young boys work in Boys Town. I figured, well, you know, Auntie's more fuckable than Mom, right? So I thought, well, you know, they made good money, and they come and get the old broad to come and service them, you know, and then share it, because, you know, for a while there, you just trying to, it was hard to get on welfare even, you know,
right.
But, and the more money you made, the more you spent. It was just, you share it, you know, on the street, and you pass out cigarettes, and you bring home food, and you just it's something you do, but it's hard to have any goals or any direction when there's nothing out. The doors are all closed,
right?
And there aren't opportunities, and you feel you get stuck in a life, and as you age, you're just aging, and it's hard. It takes a beating on your self-esteem, and sometimes it's. The only way you can get out of a depression and despair is by using drugs, because you don't have a psychiatrist. You don't even know what. You're just doing what you've all done because you pretty much grew up in that mental state. But anyway, so here we go. It's called Without the Eye, as in Mary Antoinette, The marionette. Pull the right strings, and I'll do most anything, fame. Not like the other one. With the eye, as in Marie Antoinette of, oh, they have no bread, let them eat cake, fame. To demonstrate how out of touch and uninformed the aristocrats were to the plight of the commoner. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, which preceded and contributed to the French Revolution. Revolution. Revelation. Character revolution. This Mary sees many unique and varied paths that lead to the land of gender transition and beyond. Under the trans rainbow, we're as diverse as we are human. I'm often queried about my transition from commoner to queen, my personal path of character evolution, gender exploration, transition of presentation from biker dick to butch bitch. Imagine if a hand were to slide up inside the body, grab hold and pull the inside out. Ouch! The slippery female revealed. Now the man is inside, bound, held down by her chains that bind. So he'll stay hidden beneath and behind, for it's time to let her highness shine. This queen is softer, transparent, unlike the alpha male who beat away anything female. The softer she will acknowledge and allow influences of the former he, but you may have to look close. Many hats worn under one umbrella. Let the secrets out to be. Cast off the dark cloud of what other people think. Be yourself. Stand up and walk out loud. So that was just the poem that I read. I actually wrote a piece for a magazine, and then it was supposed to have been published. That's another story. I'm just mumbling. So
okay. So
did you like that one, or
yeah.
It's,
We have about 5 minutes. Do you have something short that we can kind of put in?
oh, I've got short 5 minutes. Is it can be a long time on stage when you're trying to do.
This is very true.
But,
when you're up there, it's like
yeah, I've got lots of things.
Okay.
But this is just radio, so I can't. Do show my talent.
I think you can show.
I know I'm an old lady.
You don't have to worry about that.
But you just got to put a bag over my head and you wouldn't know it. No, I know, stupid. It's not. Don't listen. Well, the thing is, I've got. Well, what poems do I want to do? It's a beautiful sunny day, and I could do one like that, or I could, go with something, heavy and, or.
Let's go sunny day.
Sunny day. I could do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's just one that my father passed away, and this is a poem that I wrote. Sitting on the front porch, early morning having a coffee, and the sun's coming up, and it's just, you're up the Sunshine Coast and you're looking over the water, and that space. That's why I love the ocean, and the coast is the space. Wow. It just, slows time. Anyway, it's called The Slowly Sailing Sun, and the sun creeps higher in the sky. Its warming rays flood past cirrus wisps that brush the baby blue sky. High, towering distant mountain guards wrapped in a slim ribbon of cloud, project an ominous backdrop for the high tide to stroke the ever-changing shoreline. What new treasures have washed ashore under night to settle with the receding early gentle ebb tide and come to rest upon this awakening beachcombing paradise? A subtle breeze ripples the calm sea, protected by islands covered in multi-shades of greenery, tree lawns for the heavens. Untreasured dollar logs slip lost from booms pulled long through chop and calm by relentless tugs whose diesels labor on. Hour chasing hours, the mighty torque prop churns, steady ahead slow with log booms in tow. The tugboat captains navigate the inland waters with many a bay for booms of logs to slide in safe, secured and protected, to wait their turn to be processed into paper by this and that mill town at water's edge, up and down this rugged wild inner coast. And pleasure boats of all different strokes dot this young aging coast. And the memories slip of a time long past, of island jaunts and seas of glass, with speedboats racing, chasing flat calm seas, to slice up showering rooster tails with slalom water skis, yearning young love, planning camp-out carnal adventures, and the sun-filled days of summer linger. A time before working for a living traded away those lazy days with their recollections slowly to fade. And Mother Nature's peace cascades down, comforting, from the overlooking coast mountain balcony, and awaken reminders of the grandiose immenseness of God's country. The goddess, whose mighty ocean for a time tame laps gently at the shore, as the vast wonders of the seascape scenery slows time to a trickle, as daily troubles compress and shrivel, soon to be easily blown away by the surging cool winds off the water, as the day warms with the slowly sailing sun. I know, there you go. Nothing to do with trans or sexuality, and
But nice.
you know, I'm a poet now, but you know, I'm not really a whore anymore. I'm more of a slut, I think. But I don't know. Sometimes I think I'll be sexual therapy, like release therapy, and I'll hit the baby boomers that are all, retiring, you know, and they got all this time on their hands, and I'm a mediator because I have that unique position of knowing how women act when there's no men around, and knowing how men act when there's no women around, because it's totally different. And so it gives me a little perspective that I can be a good buffer and mediator, and